After 50 years, Guitar Center finally makes the correct decision to stop using a guitar as a G in their logo. When they burned down the Library of Alexandria, the crowd cheered in horrible joy. They understood that there was something older than wisdom, and it was fire. I never thought I'd live through the second burning of the Library of Alexandria, but here we are. How dare Guitar Center change the G? Me, in hell, describing what a Cadillac converter is to a medieval peasant who was executed for coveting his neighbor's house in 1176. I think you'll generally get the gist. We're here for the same reasons. For this one, I genuinely do believe it was better before. Went from Cyrus the Great to Podcaster the OK. A man was literally ready to lead all of Persia. Why would he do this? I always think you have your entire ancestry, every single generation before you, you continued to find a mate. You didn't have to. There's a I can go keep going. There's a natural reason this works better. You have evidence from the past. It continued to work for your entire ancestry. World War II resistance in most Slavic countries. Meanwhile, World War II resistance in Czechia. Stop making fun of me! Doesn't matter if it was the No-No Germans, Czechia was gonna do a little bit of trolling. This No-No German called all Czechs laughing beasts. I would wear that with honor. Pretty funny because they eventually actually took them out. Hilarious. Ambushed by a team of Czech and Slovak soldiers. Sweden's era of great power ended when Finland separated from Sweden. Don't think I could change his mind on this. I think he's right. Oh my goodness. This was Sweden, arguably at their most powerful, and they had Finland. But once they lost it, not so much anymore. Put your hands up, says the Soviets. No, responds Finland. But I have a gun. I don't care. That doesn't make any sense. Too bad, they respond. That's just the way Finland does things. No wonder Sweden was so powerful when they had them. The white generals refused to recognize the independence of Poland and Finland. Poland and Finland refused to help in the war against the Bolsheviks. Meanwhile, the white generals in shock. Obviously, they are referring to the white movement during the Russian Civil War. We're not talking about skin colors here. Who knows how much those two countries could have helped during 1912? The giant U.S. Navy staring down the little Iranian Navy. Get him, says the Soviet Navy, just out to take some pictures. And this is basically what happened a couple decades ago. They was just trying to enjoy the show. No one. Spanish dudes in the year 1500. Dang, is that my boy Messi? If you want to know how the Spanish managed to almost completely colonize 2 entire continents, look no further. It's that easy. Clearly, everyone else was kind of just doing it wrong out here. Switzerland during World War II. I must save everyone's money as quick as possible. Also Switzerland during World War II. Enemies to the north, enemies to the east, enemies to the west, enemies to the south. It did also help that Hitler literally didn't think invading Switzerland would actually be worth it. He was just like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. Napoleon being exiled to a beautiful Mediterranean island off the coast of Tuscany. Oh no, what am I gonna do? I'm totally not gonna escape right now. He loved his vacation in Elba so much he had to go all the way back to France and tell the whole country about it. Put all the Dutch people in Ireland and Ireland would be the garden of Europe. But put all the Irish people in the Netherlands and it would sink. Dang, what did this dude have against Ireland? What'd they do to him? I don't know why everyone's linking to this article now. There was a time when 9 out of 10 Irish people would believe in fairies. Be afraid, be very afraid. The oldest house in France, 700 years old, is currently under restoration. Why did it take this long? It looks like it could have used some restoration just a few centuries ago. Someone put this and literally said average French home. That's nice. King Tut depicted in sculptures. Meanwhile, King Tut in reality. Actually, no, this SpongeBob image isn't that far off. He definitely had some issues, that's for sure. At least they cleaned him up nicely in his sculptures and stuff. Walks in, crashes the entire Egyptian economy, refuses to elaborate, leaves. Man, if I had a nickel for every time a leader just did this, I'd probably be able to fix all the broken economies left out there. An emperor takes power. Millions say oof. The emperor gets betrayed. Millions say oof again. And the process repeats itself again. Average event in Chinese history, basically. We don't even need to single out one form of China. This happened so many times in different parts of China. 20 to 30,000 civilians were eaten. Decisive victory. Nobody, absolutely no one, not a single soul soul on Earth. Then there were the Koreans during the 15th century. These were their Hwachas, basically, and it's insane that they came up with this technology like 600 years ago. I mean, if aliens came down and gave any civilization some extra technology, look no further, if we're gonna make those theories. Kind of hard to believe they didn't end up just taking over the entire world after inventing this. Probably hard just to kind of maneuver them, though. Egypt, France, please help me gain independence from the Ottomans. France, why would I? Egypt, I'll give you this cool rock. Then there's France. You know what? I'm in. And apparently it was Obelisk, to be exact. Hey, Guildmaster, you see that guy over there? Hi. He makes shoes in a slightly different way. Prepare the armies. Pretty much a perfect summary of how guilds worked. They're pretty much like mafias. You see, the plan is quite simple. Send your big Baltic fleet to clap some upstarts from a godforsaken island 30,000 kilometers away. Let your paranoia over those new torpedo boats get the better of you and sink some civilian British trawlers along the way, narrowly avoiding war. Keep behaving as incompetently as possible, shooting random civilians or even your own ships with no consequences. Get immediately sunk on arrival. Get immediately sunk on arrival. Yeah, Russia at this time had some problems, didn't they? This was specifically referencing the time of the Russo-Japanese War. Oh look, the No-No Germans handing over a piece of paper. Historians reading the paper. Oh no, it's a propaganda poster explaining how all these civilizations were actually started by Germany. Historians looking very confused, but no, they are dead serious about all this. Apparently the No-No Germans during World War II did teach their kids this map, saying the Russian civilization was actually started by Germans, the Spanish civilization, the British, the French, they're all German, always has been. Fighting over who had the best resistance during WW2. Nah, how about being impressed by the heroism of those thousands of men and women who fought for their liberty? Now that's a much better way to handle this. In reality, it was all impressive from all the different areas of the world. The USA during the Cold War saying frick you to, well, obviously the Soviet Union, saying frick you to, well, yeah, obviously Cuba, saying you're cool to Yugoslavia and China since the 1970s. Again, this is during the Cold War. And then going back to say frick you to, oh, well, yeah, Vietnam. Again, during the Cold War. Let's not forget about that part. There definitely was a period where the US was very cool with China. Things have changed. When you learn that WW2 era submarines sucked at being submarines. I am visibly confused, but also not terribly surprised. Although when you Google when was the first submarine, it's gonna tell you 1620. So they had like 300 years to perfect it. I don't know what happened. Submarines back in the day were more like vessels that were able to completely submerge themselves at times. General Patton, this is a first-class case of man's monument to stupidity. Meanwhile, the Maginot Line successfully pushing German offenses through the Low Countries as was its intended purpose. Okay, I have to admit, after doing this for years, I don't know what to think about the Maginot Line. In a way, it was dumb. And in another way, it wasn't. Did the Germans burst through this part of France during WW2? No, they did not. Did the Germans simply go around, whether it was intended or not, and then capitulate France? They did do that. I don't know. I mean, put yourself in France's shoes after WW1. You don't want another German invasion to happen. Is there anyone that wouldn't do the same? You're gonna build your defenses along the German border, and you're gonna hope that they go around. They just didn't expect them to go around so good. Like, I don't know. The US having their president, oof, small brain. The French using a guillotine against the royal family, slightly bigger brain. China executing the emperor and become the new emperor. Meanwhile, no one beats the Dutch when it comes to getting rid of leaders. The best part about this is it wasn't like they were even particularly hungry. It wasn't like all the people were starving or anything. They just did this. They just woke up one day and were like, let's eat them. Let's see what Australia does with their leaders. Triangle to amass more wealth, square to stay involved in politics, X to spend time with your wife, or circle, travel to the Amazon to explore an uncharted river on an expedition so perilous that you contemplate oofing yourself by morphine overdose. Teddy just wanted to keep life entertaining. All these other options are just kind of a little bit boring. That's just how this guy rolled, to be honest. Genghis Khan marries daughter to prince, appoints new son-in-law as general, son-in-law oofs, daughter inherits, repeat that process. Is this why Mongolia just couldn't keep it together after this guy wasn't around anymore? Man was ahead of his time, and this was all peaceful. Cool. Gets elected to Botswanan presidency, makes country the fastest growing economy in the world. Gets re-elected, economy keeps growing. Gets re-elected again, economy keeps growing. Gets re-elected, freaking dies, economy keeps growing. Where did he learn this power? And why did he refuse to elaborate further? Let's go for the Botswana memes. This man randomly speaking some Hungarian. You speak gibberish. This man is insane. And unfortunately, that is the story of this Hungarian. He was in like a mental hospital for decades because they didn't know he was speaking Hungarian. Best part about it, even though he was in Russia for decades, he never learned Russian. He didn't care. Ooh, a story about Samuel Morse. Receives letter saying his wife is sick. One day later, receives letter saying she died. Hurries over to her, but when he arrives, she was buried 2 days ago. Samuel Morse then goes on to invent the telegram out of frustration of slow communications. And so forth, his code was started. What are the words? His Morse code. Oh look, it's Erwin Rommel. He will never be a femboy. Erwin Rommel, in the middle, dressed as a woman for a variety show during his study years in Danzig. Someone check on the Rommel fanboys. I don't know how they're doing after this. He looks fantastic though. Why'd he get into the military anyways? Turns out WWE2 wasn't the only time Rommel was referred to as a fox. Wave 4 players are never gonna be the same after this. POV, you've just handed a white feather to a soldier on leave. That's probably not gonna go well. White feathers in the beginning of the 20th century was a sign of cowardice. Like men that didn't want to go to war would receive a white feather from women. Yo, give me all the white feathers you got. I would like to keep my limbs. Funny enough though, in the US Armed Forces, the white feather actually means bravery or excellence in combat. So that's why this American is actually happy, but the Brit, not so much, because it means the other thing. Everyone calling the generals of WWE1 idiots for throwing their men at each other. Paul von Leto Vorbeck, who never lost a battle against forces who were consistently bigger than his, who didn't surrender until after the armistice because he was winning. Completely forgotten by history too. Sad cat noises. And big thanks to my patrons. Destiny Ducker, the modern cartographer. Sebi, if you hear this, I love to Drew now.
I am the kidnapper.
aPhatNarwhal, Carmel
since no one pays
InquisitorXarius, KirinoIsBestGirl,
LuxembourgLover,
5610,
Robert
RyeThePie,
TheGreatRalphy,
the Mexican
Twickenhamster,
760, ZaneyBoi,
JohnDenver,
Vlad,
GoodOldRyah,
and Jack Traven's annoying friend.
And why am I doing this?